When it comes to genres in film, there are several styles and types that we can talk about, whether it be action, comedy, horror, drama, and there's so many different ones that branch out from those alone. But there is a specific style of comedy that has been lacking in Hollywood, and that's slapstick. Slapstick comedies have been kind of lacking, and we haven't seen anything release as of lately that has really strived to become, the slapstick king, and I believe it's been over 12 years that we haven't had an actual slapstick movie that we can even talk about, because honestly, it kind of died for a while. But I feel like now, this summer that we are talking here, we have finally been birthed with or given a piece of slapstick comedy that we can fully rely on. And that luckily comes in the form of The Naked Gun. Now I know what you were saying. Sure, it's a slapstick comedy. But is it any better than the original, or is it as good as the original? I am very happy to say that it truly does live up to the standard of The Naked Gun. It is as silly as you remember it being. And I think that is truly the key thing that we are talking about, when we talk about The Naked Gun. Comedy as a whole, when it comes to slapstick, you have to do it right, and it has to land really hard sometimes with, the types of comedy that you're playing here, because ultimately it's silly. It's really silly and absurd, and, ultimately that type of comedy has to land. Now, everybody that I heard when they were leaving the theater talking about this movie, they were saying like, hey, this movie's great, a lot of the jokes land, but ultimately some of them don't quite land as they are supposed to. And they're right. A lot of the people who watched the movie have been saying that, and they have officially, proclaimed that it was going to be, kind of a 50-50 or a 70-30 kind of situation where 70% is great, but 30% is kind of like all out there. And it's true. Not every joke in this movie will land or will make any sense to people. But most of the jokes that do land are great jokes and are 100% the types of things that you expect from Naked Gun. So in writing alone, I do believe that they've really nailed how The Naked Gun is supposed to feel with this film. And I think one of the strongest things about this movie is the fact that it leans into the comedy. It leans into the ridiculousness. It leans into what made the originals great. And I feel like that's exactly what it needed to do, and it succeeded. Which is bonkers to me, because nowadays we see so many reboots happening of other films, and then they reboot the movie and it doesn't feel like it used to, or it doesn't extract the best things from those original films, and it ends up being something bland and stale. And this is not it. This is actually a great little movie that actually leans into everything that made the originals great. And I think that it's honestly one of the greatest factors in wanting to watch this movie. And this also extends to the cast as well. When we are talking about this movie, we have to mention our big cast, the people who really made this movie shine. And that is definitely starting off with, obviously, Liam Neeson. He did fantastically well in this movie, showing that he is a serious actor that can also do comedy and do it really well. And to see Liam Neeson do a comedy movie is kind of out there, because we know him as the guy who does Taken or all these other action movies that came out with him. And he's more of an action star, but to see him play something big and silly and fun is so cool, and I just absolutely love that. I love being able to say that I got to see Liam Neeson do comedy on screen, and it's just absolutely great. Pamela Anderson. Someone who is no stranger to comedy, and I say that because obviously she had a small little, intro cameo in Scary Movie 3. And if you are not aware of that, go back and watch Scary Movie 3, but she is in the intro of that movie. So it's really funny to see her, doing an entire movie with Liam Neeson. And she also, I have to say, she does great with comedy, and also her chemistry with Liam Neeson in this movie is just great as well. They play off of each other really well. I mean, honestly, even the ridiculous scenes, like the guy looking through, his like infrared binocular and seeing them, do crazy stuff that they're not actually doing. I mean, it's an old trope. It's something that we've already seen from something like, Austin Powers, but honestly, it's hilarious to see it again, pop up in a movie. So it's a great little thing. It wears its inspirations on its sleeve, and having Pamela Anderson back, in movies in general, and seeing her on the big screen, after such a long time, it's really cool. It's really cool to see her leaning into comedy and doing these ridiculous little things in this film. I had a blast seeing her in this film, and I can't wait for them to do a sequel so that everybody can just go and watch. Then we get Paul Walter Hauser in this movie. Obviously one of the other, sons of a police officer as well, just like, Frank being one of the sons of his father, Frank Jr. being, the son of Frank. It's really cool to see Paul Walter Hauser here. He's hilarious. He plays the same character we see him play in pretty much everything else that we watch him. With the tiny exception of Fantastic Four, that's a different character and a different style of character, but he plays this like pretty much every other character that we see him play, whether it's in Cobra Kai or in, other movies that he pops up in. But that's what we expect from Paul Walter Hauser now. But let's be honest. Paul Walter Hauser is not officially a comedy actor. He has become famous for comedy, but let's be honest, he became famous for a dramatic role, So it's really interesting to see him here doing comedy again, like we've seen him multiple times, and playing pretty much the same character we expect from Paul Walter Hauser, which is hilarious because it's just like amplifying something that we already know from Paul. Then we have Denny Hostin, who has played literally any type of, bad guy we can think of. He plays the typical villain that we know from multiple films that we have seen. But I feel like for this specific film, it plays to its advantage. You need to have a villain character that kind of has that sort of mischievousness that we, come to think about when we think of comedic villains. We're not thinking, villains from like a Mission Impossible movie or one of, Liam Neeson's more serious movies. No. He has to play that sort of like evil tech guy who, obviously Frank in the end has to, capture and put away for good. So it plays to this movie's benefit that he is playing that type of character, And we've seen him play bad guys in other things more seriously, but to see him here doing it in a comedic way is just awesome. We get Liza Koshy, which is famous for being a YouTuber and, a comedian as well. But it's really cool to see her here in this movie, just popping up for a couple of moments here and there. But it's really cool to see that someone who was a YouTuber finally, pop up in a pretty big movie like The Naked Gun. So I think that was really cool to see her here. Then we get a nice little cameo with Busta Rhymes as well, who plays this bank robber who's being interrogated. It's a funny scene, I have to say. It's really funny. I mean, when Frank says like, "Oh, you were locked away for man's laughter," which is, and then he has to like correct Frank. He has to be like, "Oh, you mean manslaughter?" I mean, funny scene, really great. It was in the trailers. I mean, it's not a spoiler or anything. Great little film moment that we get there with Busta Rhymes, because he's really, he's a rap legend, and to see him play just like a quick little, cameo in a movie is pretty funny. Plus, I have to congratulate him for finally winning a VMA, which was really cool to see him accept his VMAs, this past Sunday, which was fantastic. And I really enjoyed seeing some UFC fighters and commentators pop up in this movie. I mean, we get Michael Bisping, we get Bruce Buffer, we get Kamaru Usman, we get Justin Gaethje, and that's just like me, saying just the simple ones that pop up on screen. I mean, to see Bruce Buffer get punched in the face by Frank Drebin Jr., it was like, that's pretty funny. I mean, I laughed pretty hard at that because, he's known for being the voice of the UFC. Seeing Bruce Buffer get punched in the face is pretty funny. So it's really cool to see that happen, and just the overall essence of having like a UFC moment in this movie was really funny, and seeing Frank kind of hang from this chandelier-esque thing with his pants down, very much within the nature of the Naked Gun, I think was absolutely great, and in a stadium full of UFC fans as well, which is hilarious. Now, the two other cameos that I think were really funny to see as well in this movie was Dave Bautista popping up to just cover for Frank as he goes to the bathroom, which is hilarious. And he even says oh, hey, thanks Dave. And I mean, that was a cool little moment, just kind of breaking the fourth wall in a way with this moment as well. And obviously, Weird Al Yankovic popping up in this movie. Now, here's the funny thing. He pops up in this movie for a cameo, but it's not the first time he's shown up in a Naked Gun movie. I mean, he shows up in the beginning of the other Naked Gun movie. I think it was the second Naked Gun movie. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it's the second Naked Gun movie where he just pops up because everybody is clapping, and then he's getting off a plane. Really funny to see him back in the Naked Gun as an homage almost to one of the original Naked Gun movies, which was pristinely good. Overall, I think this movie really hits it off. It really brings back slapstick to what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be something that's, joyful, funny. It can, push boundaries here and there that, other movies can't. And I feel like that really is what makes this movie shine. It's the fact that they were capable of bringing all the great qualities that were in the originals into, today's day and age, and modernize that. And it hits on all fronts, honestly. And I would not be surprised if they don't greenlight a second movie, which will probably be something funny, The Naked Gun, 2 3/4, the sequel of the original, or something. Or they're gonna make a really funny long name for it, sort of how they did to the original. And I can't wait to see that, because that would be really cool to experience. And I feel like I didn't see this one in theaters, and I feel like there was no pressure to me going to see it in theaters as well. I feel like for a second one, I may think about going to see in theaters. If they do a second one, I may go and have fun with it at the theaters. I don't know. It's just something that plays in my head. At least it's my thoughts. But then again, that's what I say in every one of my videos. All of these things are my thoughts. And I want to know from you. What do you think? Did you like The Naked Gun? Did you watch The Naked Gun? Do you think that there's going to be a sequel to The Naked Gun? Is there anybody in the cast that you really enjoyed watching? I don't know. I got to hear from you. I want to hear from you down in the comments, and I want to have that discussion with you guys down there. And while you're down there, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell to be notified when new videos go live on this channel. And thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next video.
Scrolling through YouTube, same old routine, then bam, movie savant, what a scene. Trivia bombshells dropping knowledge like rain. Forget the dishes, gotta watch it again. Movie buffs unite, savants to place. Subscribe and hit the bell, don't leave a trace. Next level knowledge keeps you in the loop. Savants got the scoop, ain't nothing to recoup.